What's up, guys? It's another episode of Birdies Not BS. It's Cheyenne here with Doug, and we have a very, very special guest on today's episode.
Very, very special indeed, Cheyenne. I'm super excited that George Gankas is joining us today on Birdies Not BS. I do want to preface the episode by saying we caught up with George while he was at home in his own living room drinking a brew. You might hear his wife Justine in the background putting up groceries because we did get to see kind of a day in the life of George during this taping. So let's get to it. George, on our show, we like to do things a little bit different, and coming from you who's had this meteoric rise from just being a great coach on a range to now being one of the top 100 coaches in America. What is the current state of golf instruction, especially amongst this coronavirus?
Well, amongst the coronavirus, there is no instruction unless it's online. That's the truth. As far as golf instruction as a whole and where we're at presently, I think that it's improved a whole lot. I think that we have, much better, way better information than we did 5-10 years ago. That's for sure. I think, that we have science now. We have biomechanics that are proving things that, were only opinions before. So it's really nice to see that we have facts now rather than people just, talking out their ass. So those are some cool things to see for sure.
But doesn't the Trackman just prove it just validates the things that guys have been, teaching for years and gals, just and those types of things.
Absolutely.
Like what have we really learned? I get that we've been able to prove things. And Cheyenne, you own a Trackman. I definitely want to get your opinion here. Have you learned anything new, or are you just actually providing or just getting able to put a data point to said information?
Yeah, as you had said, with technology, there's so much now and so much knowledge in the sport that something like Trackman is so essential in learning what affects the golf ball a certain way, and in terms of practice as well for us. And as a coach, I'm sure you can use that information, and it's just nice to have that immediately for you and the student to look at, adjust, and kind of go from there. I mean, technology, I think, has been a huge, huge asset to the game in the last 5 years even.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I've had my Trackman, original Trackman, I don't even know, 7 years now, 8 years. I studied Dr. Jurgensen's physics of golf, and they had ball flight laws way back in 2002, I believe. And so Chris Como and I were talking about ball flight laws. Wow. For a long time. Oh, yeah, he's been my boy for a while. And so, when it finally came out to where we had proof of, where the ball starts, what puts the curve on the ball, it was nice to see, first off, that it was actually true what we were saying. But more than anything, it's nice now having something that we can identify, but we can also, like Butch Harmon's always said, I can see the ball fly. I can see what puts the curve on the ball. I can see the face is shut, open, whatever. I can see the ball's not spinning right. You can see these things as a coach and as a player. And it's not mandatory you have, the technology, but it definitely steers you in the right direction. It can keep you consistent. It can keep your interest up. You can play games. There's just so many things that it can help. That's for sure. So
from your standpoint and just talking about kind of the state of instruction as well as with the technology, how are you, like, from a coaching perspective, right? Are there certain things that you're doing with the Trackman? Yes, you can get path, attack angle, all these other data points. I get that. But are you using Trackman in any certain way? Are you using the combines? Are you using the hit it to certain numbers? How are you utilizing?
I've been using the combines for a while. I don't use Trackman anymore. I use Flight Scope. Only for one reason, is because, these guys had a better service for me when I needed it. But both Trackman and Flight Scope are great tools. But yeah, I use them, for, ball flights. But I mean, I can tell if a ball's curving if you're 2 under or 2 over. It's just nice to verify and tell somebody, listen, you're 8 degrees under. I mean, we got to go. We got to get you left.
We got to do something.
How are we going to get you left? We're going to move your body lines left. We rotating. I mean, what are we doing here? But we're going to do something. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheyenne, how are you utilizing, your Trackman on a day-to-day, or your Flight Scope or quad? And, I don't want to be, specific to just Trackman.
Right.
It's kind of become it's like Uber, right? Even though you might use Lyft, you still call it catching the Uber. So I'm sorry. It's what I do with Trackman.
I feel the same way. These guys hook me up with all the Flight Scope stuff, and I'm talking about Trackman. So My bad. Flight scope is the best. All right.
Flight scope, team flight scope. No, I've had my Trackman for a few years now, but definitely for me as a player, week to week, a lot of it is just distance, getting my numbers down every week, no matter where you are, and just getting everything dialed in. I work with my coach if we're having a lesson, and we kind of see what is going on and just adjust from there. But for me, day to day, mainly just getting my numbers and getting everything dialed in. Definitely a great tool to have out there.
I think that's what most good players are doing. It's not like, they're looking at their path and face daily. I think they're looking at more at their numbers, making sure their numbers are good. Most tour players that I work with, they're just looking at yardages. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Sometimes they'll look at spin on the driver, but most of them are really not paying too much attention to anything but maybe path a little bit and their distances. That's about it.
Right. Yeah. And when you are out competing, you don't want to be looking at too much anyway. So all you really need to know how far you're hitting each club. And it is a dangerous thing though, to have that there. It's so tempting to look at all the information, to take it all in and, get a little golf nerdy with it and want to just check it all out and see what you can do to improve. But sometimes it's just too much information and just too much information.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this question. This is just for kind of the listeners from a no BS perspective. How should a player pick a coach? Like there's so many guys coaching, right? Or gals. I don't want to leave out, my lady coaches out there, but how should a player pick a coach?
I think that's probably one of the best questions I've ever been asked. I mean, I really do. And if I was a player, I'd be confused because sometimes players don't know who the best coaches are. They usually look at who's got the best players, and that's not always who the best coach is. You know what I mean? You could have, you could get lucky and your friend is a tour player. All of a sudden you're his coach, and all of a sudden you start getting players, and you don't deserve it.
And you see
it's not that you deserve it, but you're not qualified to help somebody, and it goes the wrong way. And it's happened so many times. It's crazy. But then you get guys that are really, really solid coaches, and you don't even know who they are. And there's a lot in around the world that we don't even know who they are, and they're amazing coaches, whether they're good coaches or they're good mechanical coaches. And I look at those as two different things, and hopefully you can do both. But being a mechanic and being an actual coach, I would say, or player development, I'd say those are two different deals. But like I said, if you can mesh those two together, you could become a great coach. But overall, if I was a player, I would probably make the same mistake as most people do and go, who does the best players go to?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But what I would look is not who the best players go to, who's developed the most players from start, in the middle, and to the top. That's what I'd look at. Who's developed the most players? Who doesn't just get good players all the time and then just develop someone who's good? Because I know that all three of us could help anyone that's already good.
Cheyenne's recently done this, right? Cheyenne, you've recently had, a coaching change, and I know as a tour player, that's a pretty big deal. And Gankas, I'm sure you've had players come and players go. Cheyenne, for you, along the same lines, how do you decide a coach to go to, and what kind of things are you looking for too?
Yeah, I mean, it is a big decision, whether you're just starting out or you're switching coaches. You definitely do have to do a little bit of research. Like you said, see what players that they have had, what progress they've made, what is their teaching style. There's so many things that go into a good fit between player and coach, how they communicate, what they're trying to teach you as well. It definitely is a particular relationship. And
that's huge right there.
Yeah.
You have to be able to get along and relate to your coach. Yeah. I mean, your coach is cool right now. He's really, really cool. I mean, I can relate to him. I mean, he's nice to hang out with. He's very knowledgeable. He's a great dude. I mean, overall, super solid. And he has developed a lot of good players. Mm-hmm. And he actually teaches a lot of really, really, world-class golfers too. So, you can't lose with Scotty. And I would say that alone is what you said is the relationship is huge. You gotta be able to vibe with them.
Yeah, you guys are on a team together. You're teammates. You're trying to do the same thing. And I want to be able to, at the end of the day, call my coach, whether it's venting or asking a question, and just be able to have those conversations easily, no matter where my game's at or what we're doing or what tournament we're at. So, yeah, definitely the relationship is just very key in finding a good fit and coach.
Yeah. So Cheyenne, I know that, you've changed a coach, and by changing coaches, you had to also let down a coach, which is tough. George, have you ever actually fired a player? A lot of people talk about coaches being fired. My question is the other side. Have you ever just said, you know what? I'm not messing with you. You suck. Go away. You're not worth my time. Like, have you kicked anybody to the curb?
It was never because they sucked, first off, because there's a lot of players I teach that suck, but they're getting better. So the fact is, the sucking part doesn't matter. The attitude problem is the issue. When someone has major attitude, whether it's a junior or an adult, I've had both sides that I've actually, said, you're not coming back. So it's nothing that I like to do. It's just the fact that I'm pretty easy to get along with, especially when I'm coaching. That you have to be pretty dicky if I'm gonna either block you on Instagram, which I've probably done that 20 times over the past 10 years, or 6 or 7 years, whatever it's been. I've probably blocked only 20 people, which is pretty gnarly considering how many people have talked a lot of trash over the years. I don't usually block people. I don't fire them. I've been fired many times. I mean, we all have, and that's part of the territory. But you're still, as a coach, even when your player switches, that you have a big part of what they do in the future. You've built a lot of that. Whether you can take credit or you can't doesn't matter to me, especially. But the fact is instead of being bitter over that kind of change, you got to wish them well, which I always do, and usually they come back anyways.
Yeah, I imagine. Nobody ever actually talks about players that get fired. You know what I mean? Like, from their coach, because it happens. It's a real thing. Some players are too needy. Some players have false senses of reality. And even that point, how do you deal? And Cheyenne, we've seen it. We've seen these person dressed down in all the same logoed attire. They come out to the course and they think they are IT, baby. They think they are it. As a coach, George, how do you manage a person's ego? Because, in some regard, your livelihood is tied to them coming to see you and get less.
Well, the first thing is that is their ego helping them? are they really as good as they think they are? I would say, first off and foremost, I do get people that are pretty delusional, talking about how they're going to win the Masters next year and they've never won an amateur tournament.
That's
stuff like that. It's mind-boggling to me that people believe that stuff, which I know they don't really believe it. Whether they're pumping it up or trying to convince me is fine. That doesn't make them a bad person at all either. It's just there are some people that believe they're way better than they are, and then there's some that I have to pump up and make them feel like they actually are better than they are. Because there's some players that feel like they suck and they're actually pretty good. And then you get a guy who really sucks and they think they're really good. It's kind of bizarre.
Dressed in all matching apparel with the new that, and the new clubs. Just
being an instructional coach, a lot of it is mechanical. But you mentioned having to pump up your players or to check their ego. How much do you do on the mental side of coaching your students, if any?
I do a lot. I'd say most of my players, I teach them to get present. What's pretty sad is most of my players never knew how to get present. A lot of them look up and out at like the mountains and clear out their head and hear sounds and feel the wind on them and see things around them. And they're like, wow, I've never seen that mountain. And it's pretty sad, to be honest. So I've got to get players present. I've got to get them more okay with outcomes. They got to be okay with, there's a lot of things. I get their egos in check for sure. Making sure they're okay pretty much. As soon as they're okay with looking stupid and I give them a lot of drills on making them, okay with looking stupid, they perform with such a relaxed. I do. It's kind of funny. I have a lot of my juniors walk alone at school. And they go, that's for dorks. And I go, well, no, it makes you a dork because you can't do it. Wow. You know what I'm saying? They all have to walk in packs because they're insecure.
Absolutely.
So I get them walking alone. I say, well, how many guys at school walk alone that are cool? And they'll be like, Jake. And I'm like, why do you think Jake walks alone? Because he doesn't care and he's cool. And I'm like, exactly. He doesn't care what anybody else thinks. And that's where you need to get if you want to be a good golfer.
That's
So
It's funny you even say that, George, because I think a lot of people forget this part of golf instruction or any kind of instruction where you're working with young people is you're going to cross lines, right? I mean, you're talking to kids about, their days in school and helping them be better people, right? And I don't think a lot of people actually stop to think that this coach, this person that I'm entrusting my kids swing to is actually making them a better female or making them a better male. And I think that's just hearing you say that, it's kind of exciting to hear that you're actually shaping the lives of people.
Well, I appreciate that. I do my best because a lot of my juniors, over the time of they come to me, confide in me, and, they need help. And a lot of times, we've been through stuff like that. All three of us have, that we can help them. And we are qualified to do that. I've done a lot of crazy stuff in my life. I've seen a lot of stuff. And so that being said, that there are times where I can reason with, a player, whether it's on the course or off the course, issues with, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever it is. Those are things that, we can all three help,
Absolutely.
It's just what players sometimes need. Sometimes players come to me and I'll talk for an hour with them. You know what I mean? And they're like, that was the best talk I've ever had. And some players need that. And some players want to be, 24/7 golf. So it just depends on the player. And everyone comes for different reasons.
Yeah. So George, and Cheyenne, I'm gonna let you jump in here in just a sec. I want to ask George this question along these lines. George, I do consider you to be somewhat of a disruptor. You are not the traditional Peter Millar wearing loafer standing in on the range lesson guy. So what I want to ask you, first question is, how have you been received in golf? Because golf is a good old boys club. We all know it. We're not hiding from it, unashamed of it. But you have a wrestling background, skater swag. You don't speak with the normal vernacular of a golf coach. I mean, what the hell is Scooby anyway? And Cheyenne's going to talk to you about that in a while.
I've been hearing about this Scooby, and I got to know what it is.
You said it better than anybody. Say it again. Scooby. I love
No, how have you been received by, I guess, the blue bloods in the industry?
Originally not very well. You know what I mean? Everything was tuck your shirt in. You can't wear that here. And, I wasn't trying to, stand out or look different. It's just what I wear. I try and be comfortable, as everybody does. But the fact is, when you jump on the course, I can't even swing with my shirt tucked in, to be honest. Whether I'm too fat or whatever it is, it's just hard to keep my shirt in. So the fact is I like being comfortable. So if that means wearing flip-flops or, wearing, like a sweater, whatever it is that I wear, or my hat or my, people call it like a flat bill, whatever it is. I just wear what's comfortable. And I think that's ruffled some people's, feathers.
It's had to. No, I mean, it's had to. I mean, Cheyenne, you've had your battles with attire. And it's funny.
I'd like to hear about that part of it. Let's hear about that.
Well, for me, you have your own style, what you want to wear on the course, off the course, whatever it might be. Nike obviously is nice with kind of merging the two, sportswear, lifestyle, golf. So it's nice to at least have that aspect and those options. But with tour rules and regulations of what you can and can't wear, some of the stuff that Nike Golf has made in the past, you actually cannot even wear in a tournament. It might look cool, be comfortable. It is actually your style and what you want to play in.
Functional.
Functional, yeah. But unfortunately, the tour has their own rules of what their dress code is, and you have to abide by it. And so, in the past, there's been some issues on tour with girls wearing stuff they should not be wearing.
Well, what can't a woman wear on the tour? Is it the shortness of the skirts, or is it the material of the clothes? What are the rules?
Yeah, so on LPGA, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, they put out a new little memo of what the dress code is to remind girls, because they had gotten a little bit too relaxed out there. So no tank tops. If you're wearing a tank top, you got to have a collar or a little mock neck.
Are you taking notes, honey? My wife needs to take notes. She don't know what to wear.
And it's all the cute stuff. So that's the worst part. No razorbacks. And then the skirts obviously have to be.
My wife's on, what about this? She's got to raise her back on right now.
Yeah.
No, that's
So,
not gonna
I
work,
was out
Justine.
there wearing those all the time. And it's nice.
What did you say? Dougie just said something funny.
No, that's not gonna work, Justine. You can't wear the Razorbacks.
So things like that. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, things along that nature of just kind of tightening stuff up. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're playing a sport. And so you want to wear something that's functional, that's athletic, but it's a country club sport as well. So trying to find that balance of what works, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's like over at Silverleaf, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're Ben's doing what he wants to do, and that's pretty cool, is it not?
Yes.
I mean, that's just basically playing golf, being comfortable, and I think that's where hopefully golf moves into. It doesn't mean we have to be sloppy and the rest, but be comfortable is different than being sloppy to me.
100%.
You know what I mean? Dressing in something that you can still play and you don't look trashy is decent. I mean, I think that for me, when I go to the golf course, I think originally I've always had problems with. I don't like wearing golf shoes. That's just me personally. But and the one reason is because I can't move my feet. I can't, if I can't bank my feet properly, then to me it feels weird. I had a new pair of, I'm not going to say the brand, but I couldn't actually turn my foot through on the way through the ball. And to me, I've got to be comfortable. I'd rather wear flip-flops through the shot, which sounds ridiculous. But
and you've done it.
But I play better in flip-flops than I do in real shoes, which I'm not saying anybody should do that or it should be done that way. That's what I play better in, to be honest. Whether that's because that's what I've always played in or if it's just because, I've never really liked golf shoes. They're just uncomfortable to me.
Cheyenne, as you can already hear, George he's not scared of shaking some things up. And the next question I have is also another area of the game that she's shaking up, and that's how you actually teach. You're on record, George, of telling people, I want you to be your own coach.
Yeah.
which to the blue bloods and all the folks that have had their every 2 week, Mrs. Havenkamp and Mr. Havenkamp lessons, every 2 weeks, every Saturday afternoon. That's how that pro has made his money for years at different clubs. Where you're absolutely the opposite. So how what's your approach to instruction, especially giving players the ability to be their own coach?
Well, I think that, if we can actually teach players to understand, like, for instance, I had a junior today and he was, a really talented kid that wasn't developed yet. He's jumping all over the place, but he had athletic abilities, like 15 years old. And I started breaking his swing down. I said, first thing, let's get your contact right. Let's get you actually, your face is wide open and you're stalling out and you're throwing and you look like you're humping through the ball. And his mom was there. And what we started doing is I got his face right. I said, let's get your face right. And then I'll teach you the release patterns and how to rotate through the ball. And immediately those patterns got better. He took it way long. And I said, I just explained a few things. I said, listen, I have a question for you. If you swung at 100 miles an hour, like you probably do with an 8-iron, this kid had long arms, strong, and hit his 8-iron probably about 155 yards, probably with an 8-iron had dynamic loft of like 35, which you both can understand, where some people aren't going to understand. So he's just adding the loft for crazy. So we get him down, and I said, let's do some little half shots, and he got his dynamic loft down to like 22 with an 8-iron, which is DJ style, like real low. And so the fact is I said, listen, I said, you're not just shoving your handle. It's face, it's rotation, it's understanding. And I said, but the fact is, I want you to understand something. You swing so hard, so long because you're turning your 8 into a lob wedge. I said, imagine, let me give you a little formula here. I said, if you had an 8-iron and you swung at 100 miles an hour and had 30 degrees of dynamic loft compared to someone who swung it 80 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour slower with 20 degrees of dynamic loft, which ball's going further? And he goes, probably because you said that, 80 miles an hour. And I said, you know what, to be honest, I don't even know, but I'd predict yes. I'd say 100%. And he goes, well, okay. I said, well, so what that means is you don't have to swing out of your ass and really long to get distance. I said, if you get this contact right, I said, but here's the steps. I said, I'm not trying to give a full lesson here. I'm just saying these are the steps you need to take. And now you have to be accountable. You have to actually know how to video. This is where you set the camera up. kids don't even know how to set their cameras up. They're like, they don't get where to even place it, what positions, where, what steps to take, what they're even looking at. So I'm like, listen, we're going to go in the mirror and I'm going to put this camera here. And I'm going to take a freezer. You're going to get up here. This is the position I want. And I want you to video this, and I want you to understand and tell me in detail what I want, what I'm looking at. And I just don't think that coaches do that. They want you to rely on them. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the reason is it's to make money. They want you to rely on. I don't want my players to rely on me. I've got too many players, to be honest. I probably have more players than anybody in the world. I wouldn't doubt it. And what I mean by that, on online lessons, on forums and in person, it's one of those things where and people call me every day asking about their golf swing. And
I've called you every day. I've called you a couple times.
I think honest to God, I get over 150 calls at text a day on showing me your videos of your swing. Wow. And I answer every one of them. Usually it's a voice thing, dude. I'll tell them something. Get your setup right, dude. Get your backswing right, whatever it is. I'll tell them real quick. But the fact is I enjoy helping people understand how to get better so they can improve themselves, rather than me. All right, do this one drill and I'll teach you the next thing next week. Do this. Now, is that wrong? No, absolutely not. It's just, I'd rather get you a big understanding here, clutter the shit out of your brain, make you understand all the components, and now you can actually be your own coach. Then when you come back and see me in 2 weeks, now it wasn't like, holding your hand again and going, why didn't you do this? They understand. They can look at it now and go, okay, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. And then people would come in and say, you've given them too much stuff. Well, then I'll teach them how to shut their brain off, which you can't do, but I can tell you, I can shut your brain off. I can make you think the proper ways, which means basically you're getting in a zone. Basically you're getting a hyper-focused, mindset. I mean, we can go from mindset to mindset, but what I'm trying to tell you is I would rather them understand the golf swing and then be able to shut it off than me having to, patty cake them all the way there.
I think as a player too, that's so important, because you're not always going to have your coach in your town or standing right next to you to tell you X, Y, and Z. As a player, if you're mid-round, sometimes you have to just figure it out on your own. And the better you understand your swing or the swing in general, you can kind of just adjust from there and get back on track. Because I see a lot of, especially junior golfers, who are so dependent on whether it's a parent or a coach to be right there at all times. But the biggest thing I learned, especially going to college, being away from my coach, long distance, whatever the case may be, you have to really, truly know your swing better than anybody. And your coach can give
I couldn't agree more. I think, like, people go, well, are you going to be there with Wolf every week? And I'm like, no, I've been with him since he's been 13 years old. He knows if he didn't know his tendencies, like every coach is out there every week, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm not trying to ruffle your feathers. I've just been with Wolf so long. I'll be like, dude, listen, get your eyes out, get your night. I can tell him in 1 second, and now he'll tell me beforehand what he needs to do. It's like, does that mean he doesn't need me for life? No, he still does. But the fact, does he need me every week? Absolutely not. Does he need me once a month? We just talk. You know what I mean? And the fact is that's the way. If someone started a kid at 13, I shouldn't be doing a lot of mechanics when he's on the PGA Tour. Mm-mm. You know what I mean? And so, like, someone like who I've been with for a long time, like Sung Kang, to me is probably one of the smartest players on the PGA Tour. And what I mean by that is he wanted to know everything about the golf swing. He wanted to know every piece of the golf swing. And now it's to a point where he already knows, like, he's already given other people lessons. That swing sucks. That's good. Blah, blah, blah. So basically, in a nutshell, yes, I would rather inform my players so they can actually, be efficient on their own.
So what about copycats, G? We all have Instagram, Shy. Well, you got it. I got it. We all got it. George, I've actually been following you since about late 14, early 15.
You didn't tell me that, or I'd have followed you earlier, G.
Hey, man, it's funny, George. You don't even remember meeting me, man.
I never met you. I'm gonna follow you now.
I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna call you all the way out. We met on the range at the Memorial. I was sitting there talking to Gary Woodland. You were walking to Sung Kang. I'll tell you what you had on a gray collar shirt on. You had a Gucci belt and some Gucci shoes, and it was untucked and it was sagging. This was like 2015 Memorial. Maybe it was 16. It was one of the two. 15 or
Damn, I was
16
young
Memorial.
back then, G.
Yeah, you gripped. We talked for a minute. You gripped me. Actually, you know what? I was standing with Gary Woodland and Sean Foley. You gripped me
Really?
up. Yep, you gripped me up and you
Oh,
kept
I
me pushing.
do remember that.
See?
I do remember that.
See what I'm saying?
I do.
And
Shawnee,
you kept it pushing.
Those are some cool dudes right there.
Yeah, Sean's solid, man, and so is Gary.
I love Sean
Shout out to
and
Gary.
Gary Woodland's. I mean, I don't know him very well, but he was super, super cool when I met him for the first time. Like, really cool. Like, just had a good aura to him.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's G, man. That's, whenever he comes into our place of business, he's always, a guy that greets everybody and he'll have that conversation with everybody from the CEO to the
Super
janitor.
humble.
Yeah, absolutely. But G, you said something interesting that I want to kind of talk to you a little bit more about as it relates to just social media itself. Have you seen other people kind of stealing your teaching style or philosophy? Are you like the Ledbetter now and licensing it out, or what?
So I can't say that anybody stole anything, because I've stole it from all the players. You know what I mean? There's nothing that I made up. The fact is that I identified certain things that match up with other things, one. And two, I see what actually really works and what doesn't work, because I've tried it. So when someone says you got to do it this way, I tell them to shut the F up, because I've already tried it. Okay. It didn't work. Okay. It's got to be matched up with this, and this for it to work, because that shit's garbage. So the fact is that, are there copycats? I wouldn't say copycats. To me, it's flattering. I feel like they're on my team, but like, I do have a couple people that I could name out right now that say something that I said 2 weeks ago, or they look on my Instagram from 3 years ago and act like they just made that shit up. That's different. But when people actually, use stuff that I've, first time referenced, I don't have a problem with that at all. I think it's flattering, and if people are getting better, I'm stoked. It's not my information. That's why I give out so much. I think that, I've learned so much stuff from the greats that had it figured out back in the day, like the setup alone that we talked about.
Absolutely.
Is I didn't make that up. I just wondered why the hell we ever changed it. You know what I mean? And once I realized that we did change it, and you got to be an athlete to have your back straight, and I'm like, oh wait, I am an athlete. Why is my back straight like that? If I wasn't 6 foot, I could, or 5'11" and a half, I could probably, afford to have my back straight. Cheyenne can have her back straight. How tall is she? 5'8", 5'9"?
5'6". Yeah.
Oh, then you can definitely have your back straight, because you can still get to the ball. So it has a lot to do with height, depending on your posture. So guys that are taller have to have some round. Just like you see Tiger's starting to round his back again, because if you have a straight back like that and you're tall, you get armpits out in the toes. You can't turn through the shot, and that's how you start to extend and hurt your back.
Absolutely.
So the setup's a big deal. Just certain things that we think we have to do, like, tucking your arm, or your arm should be flying. Where these things have to be and where they can be are different stories.
It's definitely interesting what you were saying about, just the golf swing in general. And there are so many different teaching styles or swing styles of, everyone has their own little flavor of what their swing looks like. But at the end of the day, it does just come down to the fundamentals. Is that right? I mean, it can maybe look a certain way, but there's very specific positions that really all that matter in someone's golf swing. It might not be a Tiger Woods swing. You might, Jim Furyk's got a little something different.
Matt Wolff has a little something different.
Matt Wolff's got a little something different.
Absolutely.
So for you as a coach, what are the most important aspects of the swing that you're really focusing on in each individual student, and kind of the swing that they come to you with?
Well, I'd say first off and foremost would be contact being good, obviously. I would say once I've got contact good, then I start moving into backswing structure, how the body pivot is, so I can set that up. When I talk about structure, is the arm tucked? Is it up here? Is it across the line? How much form rotation, and where the face is at up top? And then, how are the shoulder incline? How's the shoulder incline? How's the right leg, left leg? So you look at the pivot and where's the pressure at? So if I broke it down, I would say after setup, that'd be probably the most important thing. Mm-hmm. Then it'd be pivot and where your structure's at up top and where your pressure's at up top. Are you really stacked? Are you moved off the ball? Because that influences a lot about what we're going to do in the downswing. So if I get someone's pressure proper up top with the right structure, to me, it's almost automatic on the way down. Things happen naturally. For some players, they don't, but a lot of players, they do. If you're an athlete, I think things just flow. So when I'm looking at somebody, I'm looking at once I get the backswing and then I get the pivot right, I'm looking at speed. I'm trying to get somebody maxed out so then they can start controlling the curve, have a one-way miss. There's so many things that go along with ball striking that you could probably go on for hours and hours. But the way I did it, and when I did my membership program, I said, number one is setup. Number two from the thing is pressure up top, and finishing your turn relative to the length. So if you don't have any turn, you're going to start to tilt. You're going to start to pull your arms down. You're going to start to stand up, anything to get the club inside. So as long as you finish the turn would be number two, three would be pressure up top, and then four from there would be face. And once you have your face right, it's just pivot through it. It's not, you don't have to worry about what your arms are doing. It's just straight up use your pivot. And if everything else is set up, then things just happen. So if you set those four things up, then I think a lot of things just happen naturally.
Everything else just falls into place after that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And but people do have different things. Hey, I want my arm here. I want my arm here. I like it here. I like it here. And to me, I just look at it as like an athlete. If I'm 6'7", 6'5", whatever, and I'm a beast and I have 300, I hit it 350 off the tee, I can afford to have my arm down here. You know what I mean? I can tuck it. But if I've got no speed, I have no right to have my arm tucked. I'm going to move that thing up because it's like throwing a ball from here. I would never throw a ball from here. I'd throw it from up here. But if I don't need more speed and it's all about accuracy, I can tuck it a little bit. So you're looking at someone's size. You're looking at – there's a lot of variables that we're talking about.
Interesting.
Well, G, in the spirit of time, we got a couple more questions. I'm going to let Cheyenne bring the question home at the end. But I do want to ask one question because it caught my observation, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me in watching you and seeing you kind of have grown into the coach that you are, it seems like you really have a following that you've built in that Westlake area. I mean, I've seen you post stuff in the evening, and I've seen the range full of kids. And when I say kids, I'm talking under 18. What has golf meant to you and that Westlake community, and how are you kind of growing the game, if you will, even locally, if not nationally?
Well, I think that the players, whether they're juniors or college players or adults, it's a cool hangout. You know what I mean? You get a good camaraderie there. You get players competing, putting contests, chipping, long drive, and then they'll go play with each other, come back, hit balls. So, it's great for the game. I think that if you can get a big group of players that are all buddies, I think that, my place being a hub, I'd say, so many players have come out of that area that I won't see them for a month and then they'll come back. I won't see a player for a year, they come back. And it's like they're coming back to the same thing because people still want to come and hang out. And I don't think it'll change until I move somewhere else. And it's crazy because I'm almost 50 years old, and it's not like, I don't think many 50-year-old people want to really like chill out and hang out with someone who's my age. You know what I mean? And be like, hey, dude, let's hang. So it's flattering, but on the other hand, people are getting better. So I think that's one of the reasons that it's fun. Just make it fun.
I love that.
That's awesome because, like we see it, man. I feel like you I don't know if you coach all the kids that I see when you post, but it seems like that range is so packed and the lights are on and there's just this vibe that it's like, damn, I want to go out to Westlake and just feel it.
It's fun. It is fun. It's always fun. It's like, one thing that sucks for me is that I can never hit balls because if I go try and hit balls, everybody's like, check my swing out. How's this look? And I'm like, bro, let me hit one ball. Just one without you saying anything.
And people forget, like, you're a big golfer too, like yourself. You love to play, but it is what it is now. But
I can't practice anywhere except for in my backyard. And it's not like it's only not because like I'm a celeb. It's because of straight up, someone's always like, can you check my swing out?
Always working.
I never get a chance to hit a ball myself. It's weird.
Wow.
Well, I'll let Cheyenne bring it on home for our time together this evening, George.
I have been dying to hear, what is the Scooby term? I have heard so much about it from Doug. Okay, I just got to know, what is it?
It means something different for every player.
Okay.
So it definitely means something different for every player. So when I say Scooby, like with Wolf, that means, yeah, I can't even tell you what it means with wolf. You know what I'm saying? So if I say, if a little kid's got a Scooby hat on, it just means, what's up? Just means, what's up?
I love it.
But if it's Scooby and it's like with me and Matt Wolf or me and Akshay, it's completely different. You know what I mean? So there's hidden meaning behind everything. Like, you know, everybody thinks the wet signs is what the wet signs are, but it's all different for what we do.
Okay.
Like I got a little frog on there. To me, it's a little different.
I love it. All right.
I'm a little crazy.
Right,
I just love that Scooby has its own merch. I love it.
Yeah, it does. Scooby's, yeah, that's a good hat. You know, the best hat was, well, the MBH hat was a little different too. I can't believe that thing sold out in a day.
I can't, and you have it on your phone case too. So, or did you change?
I did. Wait, do I still? No, that phone just broke. I don't have it no more.
Well, G, look, I know, I know your time is valuable, and I know a lot of people are tugging.
You know
on
what?
You
It's
right
not. It's not very valuable right now because
That's fair.
They just put a halt on us in Cali, and when nobody's working tomorrow.
Well, I'm glad since you had nothing to do, you could hang out with us. Well, I mean,
no, I enjoyed it. You guys are fun to talk to. We need to go play some golf.
Let's do it.
Tell David Woods. I mean, I'm calling David Woods out right now. David Woods, Cheyenne, George, you and I will go play some G at Vintage. We're coming. We're going to come once all this has died down, but set the tee time. We'll be there. That
will be very, very cool. I'm going to be coming out to AZ soon too. And then maybe I'll bring Rob Muji will come out and he can caddy for me. My agent.
Muji will definitely caddy. But you know what? Thank you, George, so much for spending this time with us. Cheyenne, thank you as always. Everybody
thank you guys, both of you. Hope I wasn't boring.
No, that was so interesting. It was nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on.
As I told Cheyenne, Gigi, I said, this ain't going to be boring. This is going to be an interesting block of time. So.
Well, that's it for this week. Thank you again to our guest, George Gankas. Lots of cool information there. Don't forget, you guys, follow us on Birdies Not BS, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or birdiesnotbs.com. Send us your questions. We will hit you back and answer everything that we can.
And also don't forget, wherever you listen to our podcast, go on and rate us. We need those ratings so we can keep more folks engaged in this content that we're producing. Also, George Gankas is George Gankas Golf on Instagram and Twitter. Be sure to give him a follow. And thanks again, Gigi, for stopping by.